Back, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another beautiful night, another beautiful covering of another beautiful game. And I like this game a lot. It's from 2 years ago, and the game I'm talking about here is Final Fantasy 16. And I decided to go back to Final Fantasy 16 because yes, there was an expansion pass that came out, which was the first one. I'll cover that one later. But I just recently played the Rising Tide. Just recently beat it, and I couldn't hold myself. I just feel like I needed to cover it right away. So to start with Final Fantasy 16, and before anything, if I sound like I can't speak properly, it's let me tell you, it's like 50 degrees. Humidity is really high. Talking about like 70%, around there. So it feels like 30 degrees. Baby. So Final Fantasy 16, I played it about 2 years ago when it came out. Very good game. A lot of people played the game. I feel like it was one of those games that was quickly reviewed and just forgotten. And I can't believe I can't remember the first DLC. And I blame it on this weather because I can't think straight. It's like jumping in a cold pool when it's like 40 degrees and trying to think about how to prepare a sandwich. It's just not doable. So, covering a little bit of Final Fantasy 16. First of all, it's a brutal storyline. It's one of those Final Fantasy games that it just it's not like the traditional style, in the sense of awesome storytelling, peak combat, awesome summons, and no, not this one. This one's a little bit different, in the sense that it's pretty freaking brutal. How about that? So the game starts out as a band of, you know, some guild members, some thief looking members, I don't know, some pretty exclusive members here traveling to go along the mountain range. And as they're pretty much going along, there's a war going on between the Dalmalkian and I believe it's the Waloed people. So as you're playing the game, one of the characters, his name is Wyvern, but he seems to like remember his past, seeing that it used to be a simpler past instead of like war and just like bloodshed. So back then his name was Clive. I'm gonna wrap this up pretty quickly because it is a traditional Final Fantasy game, so there is a lot of stuff going on at the same time. So back then he was Clive. The main thing about these games is the dominants, which are the people that are responsible for carrying the icons, which are basically the summons. So in his kingdom, the Rosaria kingdom, he was the firstborn, but he was not gifted the great gift of the icon. So pretty much his mom was like, oh, you're worthless, like like basically his mom was like, you're worthless. They have a second kid. His name is Joshua. He has the gift of the phoenix, so he has the fire icon. Mind you, there's a little detail where it explains that there are no two of the same icons, like same element. So as you proceed with the game, you're basically his shield. So you're just Joshua's shield, which is like the person that is entrusted to protect the dominant of the kingdom. So since you're Joshua's shield, you're training, you get this mission in which you gotta go to basically the swamp area. You gotta fight some goblins. You go along, you come back, your father comes back, and you know, everybody receives him, is happy to see him. It's like, hey, you made it back, good job. He's like, hey, you know, I brought some steak and all that good stuff, and of course I brought the jewels and all that great stuff, because the wife is only interested in like being in the family, the rich family, and having the dominance and being like the best of the kingdom. So you go through this experience, you see that you know, you're your brother's shield, and of course you have the fact that when you come back at nighttime, there's a great celebration, and this is like a Game of Thrones style. You have a great celebration at nighttime, and something happens where like half of your castle and like your little your town area, basically it's like burning down. So as everybody proceeds to getting out of the castle, Joshua runs. His father's like, hey, you know, like, let's get away from this area, I'm gonna protect this area, and then bam, he gets killed right in front of Joshua. Joshua basically gets to see his father killed in front of him, which is brutal. So as this happens, Joshua freaks out and he lets the phoenix power out. He's like, yo, I'm out, like this is it. So he lets the power out, which it sucks because there's like familiar characters that are like family to him, and because he doesn't know how to control the power, like he kills everybody around him. And he destroys everything around him in the castle. So he's freaking out, he's flying around. You got this great big bird in the sky just flying everywhere, and everybody's freaking out, of course. And all of a sudden, like, Clive is like rushing to his brother because he wants to save him, and he recognizes the phoenix, so he knows that's his brother. And there's this little character here that just keeps showing up in the hood, which, you know what, I'm not gonna spoil anything because this game is 2 years old already. So it's Ultima. Basically it's gonna be Ultima. He's rushing to him, and he's trying to like convince him to like let the power out. And by the power, I'm talking about Ifrit. So he becomes Ifrit, and then he starts fighting with Phoenix. And the thing is that Clive is also unable to control himself, but he is consciously there, so he can think, but he can't control his body. So in this case, starts having a big battle with the Phoenix, beats the Phoenix, starts ripping him to shreds, and he does not know how to control himself. So ultimately, just boom, ends up killing his brother. And it's a sad story because after that, he snaps out of it. Phoenix is dead and gone. And then the mother shows up, sees Clive laid on the floor, and he is tired, he is exhausted, he turned back into human form, and he's just laying there. And the mother, you find out that was actually the person responsible for everything that happened. So she is about to instruct the guards to kill Clive, but actually not only lets them live, but puts them into the branded, which is a group of, basically it's like citizens that are branded to do all the work that the kingdom requires. So I don't want to say slaves, I just want to say they are branded. So they have a big mark on their face, so that way everybody knows. And then that, ladies and gentlemen, is Final Fantasy 16. And that's where we have Clive on the mountainside. And of course, this whole battle is ensuing. And ultimately, the purpose of Final Fantasy 16 is that Clive eventually meets up with one of the captures prisoners from the Dalmatian tribe, which is going to be Jill. Jill is one of the characters that started with Clive in the very beginning of the game, and eventually they get separated because of the whole calamity that occurred in the past Rosaria. So because of that, that's when they get reintroduced again. They stick together. They proceed through the whole game. Eventually they get saved by Sid, which is going to be a big not protagonist, but he's a big influence in the main storyline, in the sense that he teaches Clive that he wants to basically save everybody. And there are some mother crystals that are from each kingdom, and these are like the traditional Final Fantasy crystals that are like almost in every game. So in this game they are mother crystals, and he feels like they are poisoning the land, which in a way, yeah, they definitely are. So his mission is to destroy every single mother crystal. But as the game progresses, it gets more difficult, because then you start fighting with the different kingdom dominants. You start fighting with Garuda, which is the wind icon. Then you fight Titan, which is the earth icon. Then eventually Sid, yes, passes away, and then you do get the Ramu icon. Then the storyline gets a little more complicated. That you find out that Ultima is a character that his mission is basically he wants to prepare Clive, which is Mythos, and Clive's responsibility is to fight all the different dominants, because he has an ability that when he beats the dominants and he takes the power from the icons, he's able to absorb it into himself, therefore ultimately preparing himself for Ultima. Like, he basically wants Clive's body so that way he could take over and then be the ultimate Lord, I guess. I don't know, the ultimate being in this universe. So he wants to take over everything. So knowing that, Clive also introduces the fact that he wants to fight for people's will. So after Sid passes away, he's ultimately fighting for the will of people, and he also is fighting for the will without magic. Storyline goes on. He fights Ultima, gathers the power from Ultima, and then makes the choice that he needs to sacrifice the power in order to get rid of all magic, thus ultimately killing himself. And Joshua is also gone because he helped him. He helped Clive beats Ultima. And that was the story of Final Fantasy 16, because in the future there's a regular setting, just a regular huts. You got kids running around trying to make a fire, but they can't make a fire, and one of the children say that they wish they could use magic in order to create fire, and the mother tells them that there's no way to do that because that's only in the folklore. So in the future, like, nothing ever happened, which it did happen, but it's similar to, not really Final Fantasy X, but it's very similar in the sense of, like, main character proceeds through the whole entire storyline and in the end sacrifices himself for the better of mankind. And that's where I want to cover the DLC now, because the DLC takes place before the ending. So this is like one of those additions that I really enjoy, because it adds more, I don't know, I feel like it adds more like feeling to the overall storyline, that all this extra stuff happened before the end, because we know the end already. So for Echoes of the Fallen is the first DLC that came out for FF16, and let me see here. Let me see if I can do a little quick U-turn here. Yeah, Echoes of the Fallen is the first one. That one, honestly, it's a little simple. It's a little simple. You know, think about this. The storyline starts out, you got some merchants, and of course they're selling goods, and you know, they're gonna get their butt whooped because they're selling some product that is not good, that they're selling some dusk shards. But if I were to buy product from a guy, you know, somebody wearing a hooded cloak, like, I think I would probably, and they're selling it for cheap. So I mean, who knows how much they're selling it for? You know, but I'm just saying, it's a little strange. It's a little strange to buy from somebody like that. So you find out they're getting the product from this Spire, but there's something in there that is corrupted. So as you're entrusted to go in there, Clive and the team, which is Joshua and Jill, and I you know what, I can't forget Torgal, because I love Torgal, but it's just too much to add. Torgal is a wonderful companion. That's all we need to know. So as you go into the Spire, you basically learn that there's some kind of technology that is creating a fake mother crystal, and as you proceed to the Spire, it activates, there's like it activates like some kind of like protection system, and then the mother crystal like goes up, like it keeps like proceeding upwards as the defense systems activate. And of course you got like mini bosses, and when you finally get to the end, there's it's a pseudo icon. So it's a pseudo icon that when you fight it, and it's Omega, so when you fight Omega, it's a little sad, because you learn that the Fallen, they wanted to create their own version of Mother Crystal so bad that not only they came up with a very advanced technology, like super advanced technology, But like that was like their main objective, and oh man, that was a dip. Oh my gosh, that was like a 3-inch dip right there. Woo! I felt that on the spine, baby. So it's a little sad, and it's short. It is short. But when I decided to check out Rising Tide, I saw it came out in April of this year. I was like, you know what, let me check it out, which of course it took me some time to like read up on Final Fantasy 16 to like get caught up, because man, 2 years later you're not gonna remember everything. So I'm playing Rising Tide and I love it. I love it. It's visually impressive to be able to see that Square Enix is still doing it. Like they are still doing it big. And yeah, they got different projects and things like that going on, but I love that they're still staying true to like the roots. Yeah, so in Rising Tide, there's a new area up north. So you got Mysidia, and you got this new character. Her name is Shula. Shula asks for your help because she lets you know that dun dun dun, there is another icon. So apparently there's another dominant, and she needs your help to rescue the dominant. And before I mention what tripped me up here is as you go on and you find the dominant, it's a beautiful scenery. You get some details. It's Leviathan. It's the dominant of water. The icon of water. And as you're going along here, it's cool. You know, I can't complain. Like, I'm enjoying it. I'm fighting through the game. I am progressing here, fighting mini bosses there. Finally get to the dominant, and we can't do anything because the dominant, which is a baby, by the way, it's frozen. I'm sorry, he's frozen in time. So noticing that, Shula's like, oh yeah, by the way, we have to unfreeze the baby. Can we go back to my house and talk about it? Which by that point, I'm like, why the heck did you make me literally go through all that just to make me go back to your house? So nonetheless, going back to the house, talk about it. She lets me know, hey, you gotta go to this place. There's a temple, and basically you gotta, that's the place where you can control time, and then you can undo the time control. You can shadow it, basically. So you get to the temple, fight through it, get to the end. You got the timekeeper, which, let me tell you, you find out it's Shiva's companion. That fight was freaking awesome. The cinematic, just, I don't know, I want to say choreography, because it was just, it was like a dance. It was through and through beautiful. After you get to the timekeeper, you can finally go back. And when you do go back, you have another beautiful fight, which I did miss out a lot of stuff for Final Fantasy 16. But if there's one thing to really highlight, it's gonna be the icon battles. Because the icon battles basically play out like Azura's Wrath boss battles. It is just like a whole interactive anime, basically. Like it's basically an interactive anime. And out of all of them, if I can recommend one, because there's a lot of good fights, whenever you guys get a chance, just check it out on YouTube. A Bahamut, the Final Fantasy 16 Bahamut fight, where Joshua and Clive get together as Phoenix and Ifrit after finding each other again, because you think Joshua was dead, but he wasn't. Which that's I don't want to go back to that. But when they come back, it's just, you got a battle in space, you got mega flares, you got, it's beautiful. So the Leviathan battle is one of those. It is difficult. They definitely focus on difficulty on this one, and it does feel a little Souls-light. It took me about 3 tries to get through it, and as you progress through the battle, it does have checkpoints, so it's not like you have to start the battle from the beginning. But oh, what a battle! What a battle! So once you finish up with Leviathan, you get Leviathan's power, of course, which, I mean, you kind of get it from the very beginning, but it's official. And it's over. I mean, when you see Clive carrying the baby, it's sad. It's sad because I see that and I'm like, dude, I can't believe Clive went through all this and he did all this extra stuff like Echoes of the Fallen and this before the ending. Like, it adds so much more to the storyline, and it makes Final Fantasy 16 very special in that way. A lot of expansion passes are either, you know, additions to the game and the character, or the main character is alive at the end, but not in this one. So it adds more emphasis on do all that you can, because you never know when the last day comes. And with that, I thought this game was brilliant, and I can't wait for the next Square Enix game. So hey, maybe we'll get a little Final Fantasy 17 coming up soon. Who knows? Maybe a little Final Fantasy 1 remake. That would be nice. I mean, I wouldn't mind jumping back to the very first. But let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of this video. Let me know what you think about Final Fantasy 16. Which one's your favorite Final Fantasy? And with that, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. And later, guys. Peace.